Have you ever thought of starting your own business? Making your life your own? Now's the time. To get started. Welcome back to Starting a Business Simplified podcast. I'm your host, Suzy Rains, and today I have special guest, Tina Tesch-Myers. She is an Enviro Nutrient Consultant. If you're not sure what that is, stay tuned and listen to the episode to learn more. She has a passion for saving the oceans and reducing plastic. Her business is from her passion. We spend this episode talking about what it is that she does to help people with their health individually in their lives, as well as reducing plastics in the world globally. It's a big undertaking, and she shares her experience as a new business owner and what it's like for her and how she got started and what created this business for her. So stay tuned in this episode. Listen to all the ways that she took her passion and has created it into a business. Hi, Tina. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited for you to be here. Before we dive in to all the fun stuff that we have to talk about, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself to the listeners, and what is the business that you do currently?
Okay. I am Tina Tesch-Myers, and I'm an Enviro Nutrient Consultant. I'm the founder of Move Me, which is I help people move out of plastic and chemicals so that their health, their home environment, and the oceans have less plastic and chemicals. So it's a win-win for home and the environment.
Yeah. And this is why I invited you to come on, because I am a 1,000% supporter, my husband and I both, in the environment, animals, plants, the earth, and us feeling better. Because when you remove all that stuff from your home environment, you feel better. Your life is better and you have this better living. So I'm just curious. I know you and I have chatted and I've gotten to know you a little bit better, but for those people listening, and this is something that I love sharing on the podcast, because for those of you that listen regularly, you can create a business out of anything. And I love it when people create their business from a passion, from a place that they absolutely want to make a difference in the world. And so that's one of the reasons I invited you on. And selfishly, I love what you do, and I'm definitely going to get more information about that. But what is it that inspired you to take this leap into making a business out of helping people live better?
You know, it was many-fold, but from Australia. I am definitely a surfy girl. I love the ocean. The ocean is really my second home. And it's a passion that really touches my soul. And my son, who I adopted from Guatemala, Joaquin, we were walking on my favorite beach in Australia called Cape Patterson. And he looked around, and there, it's the most southern eastern tip of Australia. So we get all Antarctic currents of water coming through. So the water's cold. And we don't have much plastic that comes washed up on the shore. So when his statement was, you guys have screwed up the environment and we have to clean it up. And he was 13 years old at the time. And the only difference that was on the beach was in that area, there was suddenly lots of blue bottles. And they make it really hard to go swimming and surfing because they sting you. They don't kill you, but it's just really painful. And in all of my life, I have never seen them on this beach. This is the first time ever. So then I knew the currents are getting cooler because they can't survive in cold water. Oh, I was, wow, we have clean water, but yet it's changed enough to have these blue bottles, and they are iridescent blue. I mean, you cannot miss them in the water, and they're coming in. So, and I've always been touched by the ocean, and when I see photos of the plastic and I walk in supermarkets, doesn't matter if it's Costco or the local grocery store, from Whole Foods or PCC here, it's heartbreaking because you are constantly surrounded by plastic. And your life is governed by how to buy, has to be plastic based. And I know that this doesn't get recycled. Out of 1,000 bottles of plastic water, 2 get recycled. The other 998 go in landfill or the ocean. And that's what breaks my heart. That's what frustrates me. Not only from the 1,000 years it takes to decompose, but the off-gassing. It is a petrochemical byproduct. The off-gassing of the chemicals, even if it says PBA-free, it is still toxic. And that just one thing led to another. And seriously, when my son said that, and he was 13 years old, I go, well, someone else will take care of it, But I realized no one was. And each time I try to wiggle my way out of doing anything, that amazing universe, it slaps you in the face and goes, you have to look at this. And it is astounding each time when I'll give it to someone else who has a PhD, who has a master's, who has a doctorate in plastics and environmental issues. They can take the lead. No one was. And I can see it getting worse and worse and worse. And so one day I just took a stand, and especially my son was saying, look at this article. And I have a passion for humpback whale. They're sort of like my totem in one way. And this humpback whale died on the shores through malnutrition because it had 1 ton of plastic in digestion. 1 ton. 1 ton.
Wow.
And that's when I said, that's it. That's when I had decided I have to do this. And it is an everyday, step-by-step process of sheer overwhelm, of sheer terror and being scared to my core. But I know this is why I'm on this earth. This is why I'm here to help.
So, Tina, so much of what you just shared, thank you for sharing that and sharing your passion. But it speaks to me so, to the core of what it is that we individually, you're thinking, okay, you kept on saying, oh, I send this to somebody that has a PhD or a master's or whatever. And again, we minimize what we think we can do. And what came up for me, and what it just, you reassured me hearing your story that I'm doing what I'm called to do, which is to help people to do what it is that they love.
Yeah.
To have a business that has an impact on the world, on their personal life, as well as expands out to the global.
Yeah.
And I want you to speak to how you individually do this, because again, the big picture is, okay, the ocean is huge. Plastic is huge. And you even said, you're like, okay, just me talking, how is this going to make? So I would love for you to share what you do individually, what your business does to take that massive, we're going to save, get rid of plastic in the global world, which is huge, but bring it down to, okay, what is it that you're individually doing that then branches out to bigger and bigger and bigger?
Well, for me, it's because I love food. I used to be a chef, and I am a nutritionist. So I love food. I love cooking. And I think, the person's health is the heart of the home, which is the kitchen. And so I like to then go through the kitchen and just, because being a consultant, I want to show you what would be a better alternative and where you can get that from, whether it's Ziploc bags, whether it's cling wrap, whether it's fry pans, whether it's cooking utensils, whether it's storage containers. And then we go through the whole kitchen and we work out, what are you doing that is detrimental to your health at that moment? And just doing it in small steps, just one thing a day. Just that's all I ask. Under 10 minutes, because we're all overwhelmed. We all have so much on our plate. Doesn't matter if you're a 20-year-old or a 60-year-old. Everyone is overwhelmed. And so I want to make it that it's bite-sized and achievable. And even if you go and have a cup with you and get your cup of hot coffee or tea and not support the plastic. Because everyone thinks, oh, it's paper, but it's lined with plastic. And anything that's in that cup within 15 minutes, it has released over 25,000 nanoparticles of plastic, which you are drinking. So I want people to understand, if they do small things at home, one step at a time, that flows into your health, into your family, and then ultimately into the ocean.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm thinking, I'm going to share my military background, because I'm thinking, how does just doing one small thing in my kitchen individually, so I'm just making changes for me, these little steps, like how on earth is that? So my military brain kicks in. So for those of you listening, and I don't even know if you know, Tina, that I was in the Army. I was in the Army. And one of the things that I loved about being in the Army is there was a lot of us. So like my battalion had 500 soldiers in it. And when there was a task that needed to be done, they would just say, okay, everybody, all of you are going to come together and we're going to get this one task done. And literally, if it was just me picking up one thing, because I was one person out of 500, I would pick up the one thing and go set it over here. And then I'd turn around and it was all done.
I know.
Like, because 500 people, they all picked one thing up and they moved it, and now everything was moved. And so it makes me think that what you're doing is similar to that. The more people who individually, so if I go into my kitchen and I clear out everything and start, and again, what I think of too is it's repetitive. So we have to eat. We're cooking every day. If we're using these plastics every single day for every single meal, then that's just compounding. So if we just take one thing and remove it and go, okay, I'm going to swap out this one plastic thing that I do every single day, then we just eliminated how many thousands of plastics just with that one thing with one person. And then you multiply that by household after household after household. That's how we make that big impact. So I love everything that you're saying. And I just love that, like you said, it's overwhelming and it's just you right now, but you're making an impact and you're not giving up. And this is what you were called to do. And for the listeners out there, this is what I really, really want to hit home is when people think about starting a business, they go, oh, it's so overwhelming. There's so much to do and it's just me. And how do I do it? You did that with a passion that has that same feeling. It's like, you're not just doing a business where you just sell socks and you're like, oh, we're just going to make socks and sell them. You're doing something that has that same feeling of like, this is a huge undertaking, but you've simplified it down. So I'm just curious. We had a conversation before I hit record, where you've been doing for a year, you've been talking to people about what it is that you do. And you've been sharing with your audience, this is what I do, and this is how I help people, and this is what it's going to do for the planet, and all of the beautiful things that you just shared. And you realized you had an aha moment that you shared with me. So I would love for you to share with the listeners, what did you discover in this past year?
Wow, it's been like I'm going to help people, because I love helping people. I love opening people's eyes to something that's new as well as simple. And so here I am talking to amazing women from 50 up, in the late 50s, about mid-50s up to 60s and 70s. And I'll be talking about what a passion is. And they can say, oh, yeah, we can see your passion. And then they get that glaze look. Like they just switch off. And I'm just going, well, maybe I'm not giving it gusto. Maybe I'm not really talking and resonating with them. So when I was talking, there was a gentleman in the group and he was not the healthiest, but he was exactly my age. And as I talked to him about what I was doing about reducing plastic from home, he looked at me and he was very blatant and very straight to the point. And he goes, well, I don't really care because I'm going to be dead soon. And so plastic in my food, yeah, really, no, I don't care. And I go, but what about your grandchildren? That's what my kids can do. They can look after my grandkids. And I just went, oh, and that really threw me. But then I was thinking, oh, it's a man's perspective. The aha moment came to me when I was giving a talk and there was a mother there. She was maybe in her mid-20s, late 20s at the most. She had a little 11-year-old daughter with her. And she was different because she didn't have a phone. She was reading really a book, and coloring. And so it was quite different, her daughter. And the woman looked at me and she just goes, what do you really do? Because we're in a big group, we're all networking. And I told her. And her daughter looked at me and came up and hugged me. And she goes, thank you for looking and caring for the ocean. We need you. And I just went, oh my God. I got bigger reaction from her than I did from any of the women. And then I realized I'm talking to the wrong people. After a year talking to just beautiful women, there's just amazing women. That's why I didn't want to talk to them. But really, they switch off because their wife is overwhelming. They've had plastic all their life or in the last, 20, 30 years. So they don't feel it's a real problem and how could one person help the solution? But then when you're talking to someone in their 20s and 30s, they have 40 years, 50 years in front of them, and they're terrified. They want to do something now. And that's when I realized, oh, I'm certainly talking to the wrong people. Not that I love these women that I've been talking to, but I don't think they understand it's not just the plastic, but the quality of your life improving without the plastic. They don't understand the consequences of the gassing, the microparticles, the nanoparticles. And, now it's getting really well documented that it's in our blood. It's causing brain clots, strokes, kidney infections, testicular, and it's going to be ovarian cancer. Or ovarian issues. Can't really say cancer because, that's a term that is a little bit forbidden. But there are all issues that are happening. And these are micro shards. I mean, they're shards, they're sharp edges. And then working with a woman, her son has done a PhD on the genetic foundation of the DNA changing because the plastic is making the DNA change.
Wow.
And it's just like, and so that's where I want to really delve in and say, it's not just that it's bad for the environment, but it's bad for your internal environment.
Yeah.
And there are so many young people not knowing, are they male or are they female? And why is this happened? Why has all of a sudden this really increased? Or the increase of, learning disabilities.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all of
Allergies,
it's just like
autoimmune diseases. I mean, it's so powerful that you're talking to the person at their health level.
Yeah.
Because we don't, and this is where I get really passionate, and it's why I do what I do. I speak to medical professionals who want to start a business, and people are like, why do you just talk to those? And I said, because they have a huge impact. If they can teach people how to take care of themselves. And this is where I see, and for the listeners out there that follow me, if you know anything, I'm always talking about collaboration. And I'm like, I'm hearing, Tina, there is so much you can collaborate with the holistic healthcare providers and with people who are helping people to identify how they can eliminate and eat healthier and have a healthier environment. It's like they're teaching people, oh, eat whole foods, if you can garden yourself, do,
Yeah.
they're like on that food side, and you have the nutrition and the chef side too, but partnering with health coaches, oh my gosh, like you going in and saying, okay, now we're going to look at your kitchen and we're going to clean out all of these things that you're doing. And you're going to know what it is you're eating, and you're going to know what it is to buy, and you're going to know. And so it's like, there's so many ways that we can together
Yeah.
as the professionals really just bring awareness and educate people. Cause I think that that's the biggest power is once they're educated, it's kind of like, once you know what you can and can't do, then you have a choice.
Yeah.
And then it's up to you. Yeah.
Yeah. And the choice is really your choice. I mean, I've been doing some people's kitchens, and one woman has Tupperware, and she goes, I can't part with it. It was my grandmother's. And I go, don't part with it, but just don't put food in it. Put pills or papers or notes, or don't throw it out. Use it, but use it in a way that food isn't in contact with it.
Yeah, and that's a sustainable thing too, because it was her grandmother, so she didn't throw it away. If you throw it away, it's going to go in a landfill. I mean, we know that. So let's keep it in the family, but don't put food in it. So it's kind of like repurpose things in a way that are safe. That again, it's here. It's here. It was created and it's here. So how can we use it in a way that's safe?
Yeah,
it's going to be safe for you and for the planet.
Yeah. And it's and I mean, I'm just went to, just for an example, I did a whole side of raised beds, these big horse troughs. Okay. I got 4 of them, and I needed soil. And I'm just going, I cannot get, what is it? Must be at least 100 bags of soil, all plastic, to go into tubs. And they're 4 massive tubs. So I got a truck, as we say, I got a ute. And I went and I got 1 yard of compost, and it was $40.
Yeah.
Instead of over 200-300, and then all the plastic.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit more, I mean, it's just as much work, but the amount of plastic was 0. And that's what I wanted.
And you saved money. Because if you think about it, the convenience so plastic, I know that you know way more than I do from a consumer's perspective. To me, plastic is convenience. It's like, it's more convenient, faster, whatever. But we pay for that. So it's like, okay, if I can eliminate cost for a little bit of extra time, and and I'm not using plastic, and I'm still getting what I need, and it's even healthier for the soil. Because like you said, everything that's in the plastic that the soil is absorbing, then you're going to put that in your garden, and then your garden's going to grow from chemicals. Really?
Yeah. And it is, and it's daunting, and you look around it. And I was at this nursery, which I really love here in Seattle, and they're starting to get all their fertilizers and foods all in big paper bags. I mean, they're really sturdy. And I went, oh, finally, we're getting back to paper, and it's not lined with plastic. So it's like, I can see the change just happening a little, but it is heartwarming. It is so heartwarming to see changes are starting to happen. People are starting to ask.
Yeah.
And when I asked, I said, do you have any of your fertilizers in paper? I don't want the plastic. And this woman smiled. She goes, oh, yeah, we've just started.
I love that. I love that. So I'm just for the listeners out there, and how long have you been doing your business? How long have you been actively doing this?
1 year. I mean,
1 year.
I launched last year, May the 19th. And I had a sheer procrastination and fear. And then one day I said, suck it up, son. sunshine. You just have to do this. And whether you do one step a day, because it is overwhelming, and it's because I'm doing something that no one else has ever done. And there are no websites, there are nothing that can at least guide me a little bit better. So I am just scratching and looking inside logically. What can I do next? What is the next step? I mean, I'm learning constantly. I really am. But it is a lonely road at times. And you go, is it really worth it? And then I will look at pictures of the ocean where I grew up and other pictures of not such pretty ocean. And I go, oh, absolutely. Because I have to do this for my son and for the future generations that will inherit this earth. We have,
Yeah.
we really have to.
Okay, so I know that this episode's coming out in the summer, later summer, but I want to say this to the listeners. I just published an episode about the purpose of your business. The universe has perfect timing. And it went live in May, so you can look at that episode, but what I spoke about is exactly what you just described. When you make a purpose for your business and you say, this is why my business exists, for
Mhm.
to save plastic from going into the ocean, to protect our wildlife, to protect humanity, really, because you're actually helping the health and well-being of people individually. Then when you get overwhelmed and you're like, why do I even bother? That lifts you up. It's that motivation. It's that
Mhm.
it reignites that fire to go, okay, you know what? I can do one more thing. Even in and it's just like what you do with your clients. When you go into their kitchen, it's like, we're just going to do one step at a time. And this is what is so beautiful and what I work with clients on when they get started and when they're working in their business and shifting and things are changing is just simplify it down. What needs to happen right now? And
Mhm.
just focus on that. And
Yeah.
just do that and then do the next thing. And then do
Yeah.
that. And pretty soon you look behind you and you go, wow, look at all this stuff done.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. I just want to encourage the listeners, those of you that are watching or listening, this is how it is.
Oh, yeah.
And you're
It
not alone. It does feel lonely. Even for me, I have a podcast, I have communities I'm in, and there's days when I just go, am I the only one that cares about making business happen? It's because it's us doing our passion. And it
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
hard, I think, a lot of times to think there are other people out there that really do care about this thing as much as I do.
Mhm.
There
Mhm.
are. It's just
Oh, yeah.
finding them can be really challenging.
Especially if you're talking to the wrong group. Not that there's nothing against these amazing women, but it doesn't hit their soul. It
Yeah.
doesn't hit their purpose to make their family, their children safer. And if you
Yeah.
talk,
And so, yeah, Tina, so I want to ask you to think about now that you know this,
Mhm.
now that you know who to talk to and the people that are really, they're really charged up and excited like you are about what it is that you do, how that's going to shift how
Yeah,
you feel in your business when you do talk to people, because you're going to get that, ooh, how do I work with, how do I get involved? How do I work with you? You're going to get that more engaged and excited back.
yeah, and it's just it'll make me feel that my purpose and my mission is on the right track. I am really doing what I'm meant to be doing. And I know it's a calling. I know down deep when this woman who was doing body work on me and just realigning, and she stood back and her sentence, which totally seared into me, she goes, "The day you were born, the oceans were singing." And I looked at her and I'd been asking, what do I'm a rolfer. I used to do rolfing. Well, yeah, yeah, but it doesn't feed my soul anymore. What's going on? Why am I really here? And when she said that, I cried, I laughed, and I knew her words were the truth. And I could never get away from, when you see something that it gives you every answer and that hits you so deep that you know. But it took me about 10 years to really come to terms with doing it.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah.
I was scared. I was terrified. The saboteurs inside of me, you're not good enough. You don't have a PhD. You don't have a doctorate. Who would listen to you? Who cares? No one really cares. Do you really care? Can you really do it? I mean, the doubt that come piling in. And then you just put it all under control and you go, I do care. And so you start walking that simple steps. And it's changing and it's life changing. And after a month, you see quite a substantial change. And then after 2 or 3, and now for me, it's been a year. And now I know who to go talk to.
Yeah.
Because time is so valuable. You can't get time back.
Yep.
And that where I really want to focus is talking to younger people.
Yeah. And the fact that you're on this podcast and you have the listeners out there that are hearing your message, and this is something I teach and I work with my clients on, is now that you know who to talk to, it's showing up in those places where those people are. And it's sharing who you are and what you do all the time. It's like a nonstop thing. And we do it until we feel like we're annoying, which we never are. And I want to say this for the listeners. You're going to say who you are and what you do. And I'm going to say, I repeat myself constantly. I have a community. I have a Facebook community for the listeners. Those of you listening who may not be in the community, click on the show notes, join the community, because it's other entrepreneurs in there that we are sharing who we are and what we do so that we can get the word out. So like for Tina, I have been posting that, hey, I'm doing this interview with you and I want people to know who you are and what you do. It's important to get the word out so that people know what it is we're doing. And as solopreneurs doing things by ourselves, we don't have a huge marketing department that's like flooding the market with huge budgets that they can, see an ad every 10 minutes. And when you see those ads that come up, social media, TV, whatever, wherever you see them, and you're like, man, I've seen this ad like 100 times. Why do they keep showing the same thing? There's a behavioral pattern behind that.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, we have to find, where do we show up consistently?
Yeah.
And we repeat that message. So I just want to encourage you, Tina, and the listeners, you're never going to make somebody upset to repeat yourself. Most people need like 7 or 8 times before they actually register what you're saying, first of all.
Yeah.
And secondly, they probably only see you like once or twice, depending on where they are, unless you're in something that you interact with those people constantly. It's kind of like talking about oceans. We're like this tiny little fish in this giant big ocean, and we're like yelling and nobody can hear us. So anywhere that you can share your message, I'm sharing your message now that I know about it and what it is that you're doing on the podcast. But also for those of you listening, if you want to share how people can reach out to you to learn more of what it is that you do. And I would like you to share, what's one thing that they can do after hearing this episode to help eliminate plastic? Just something they can do in their home.
Just something really simple, like so many little simple things. But for me, I think number one is you have Target in where you live, because I think Target, okay.
Yeah.
In Australia, we always call it Target. Look, Target has a compostable Ziploc bags, and they're maybe about 15, 20 cents more expensive than the other plastic. But I would say just change those out. Go to Target. You will find freezer bags, gallon bags, snack bags, everything in Target that are all plant-based. Start with that. Just really look at that. Get rid of the cling wrap. They do have a cling wrap plant-based, but please do not give it to your husband to use, because you have to be really gentle with it. And I'll be doing some videos on how to really use it properly and how to store it, because it's plant-based, it's fine. I mean, my husband gave it back to me and I go, what did you do? And he goes, I got so frustrated with this. And I go, I can see. I ended up having to throw it out because I just couldn't unravel it.
Yeah.
And so I just say to women, don't give it to your husband. Just you do it. And it's just a touch gentler. That's all it is. It is just being a little gentler. And maybe one or two of the things I would say, start there.
Yeah.
Start also freezing your food in glass. It is fine. Glass does not break. If it's really fluidy and liquidy, have your one thumb distance from the top, and then store it. But if it's solid, like a bouillabaisse or a stew, then you're fine. You're pretty fine to store it up pretty high. But it is definitely, they're the two things I would start with. Start getting rid of the plastic out of your freezer and the block bags. You can change because they are now becoming more accessible that you can buy. And they're much more expensive. And I have freezer bags that I've been using now for 2 years, and they haven't broken down. Other bags do because of the food and instant reaction, but they don't last, 20, 30 years. They last maybe a year at the most, but that's fine. It's plant-based. It's okay. You can compost it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know. We could go on and on.
Oh, I know.
There's like so much. But I love the simple things we can be doing. And even just your example with what you did with the soil for your garden, and like thinking about that, going, what is it that I'm purchasing that's in plastic? Like making that step to go, can I purchase this in a different way?
Yeah.
And just having a choice, like, oh, here's where plastic is. What's my alternative? And just thinking through that, I think, is a really good one. How can people reach out to you? I'll put everything in the show notes, but how would people reach out to you if they're curious about more?
More information. I have a website, which is me.org, and there is a free talk. Just come and talk to me. And I call it the discovery call. See if I'm a good fit or how I can help you. And just book in with that. Or you can send me a message, a text. Text messages get to me faster than emails, to be honest with you. And I've had a lot of issues lately with my email. So I just tell people, go to my website, which actually does look like a landing page of pure green. This will be changing. There's the process of growing. Okay, it's a process of growing. But there you can do a discovery call. It's totally free. And then we can talk.
Okay.
That would be the easiest. That's really definitely the easiest.
Thank you so much, Tina. Thank you for all the education and for sharing your passion, your story. And just to encourage those listeners out there to just get started. Just get started. You can make a difference.
Yeah. And you will always be scared. You will always feel overwhelmed. But at least you're stepping in the right direction.
Yes.
And you have no regrets. I mean, the last thing I want to do is be on my deathbed and go, why didn't I do it? I don't want to have a regret in life.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's scary but fun at times. And it definitely makes you grow. There are things I'm doing now I would never have done a year ago. But it is, hey, let's just happy, grow and expand.
Yeah, I love that. And I just want to add, for those of you listening, that if we're going to be in this world, it's an experience. And why wouldn't we? We're always going to struggle. There's always going to be challenge, and there's always going to be learning and growth. So why not do it in something that you love?
Yeah. And that gives you meaning and gives the world meaning.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tina, for being here.
Thank you.
And for the listeners out there, as always, keep it simple.